Hi, very good afternoon. Welcome to MGID Talk Show. Today we have one special guest, Mr. Avinash Tiwary, Media Director at Carat India, and the author of book No Online Advertising. All the information about online advertising at one place. Hi, Avinash. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Pankaj. Thank you so much for inviting, and especially thanks to MGID also.
Yeah. So actually, in the last week, we were discussing with Avinash that what should be the topic, and we were also talking about various things about performance marketing, about artificial intelligence, and then we thought that is this the right time to bring back as it now as the GDPR and CCPA are already in action, and Google is phasing out the third-party cookies.
Yes.
So, uh, Avinash, how is the new work from home, new normal, what we call in today's pandemic time? How is the new work from home is going for you, and how is your company adapting to it?
Okay. So actually, I think it's quite common question that has been we all surrounded with. So to start, actually, trust me, it was really difficult working in silos, and this action actually happened in like a 2-3 days, and then finally we got to know that everyone has to work from home. The good part was since we are an internet-based company, the transition was quite smooth enough, and we were quite scared of not really sure of how the productivity is going to be. But touchwood, I think the productivity is actually increased. So if you look at the percentage of if we actually you can't actually divide it with respect to percentage, but you really feel that yes, the productivity is actually going up and up. The only dent that we get to realize talking to the team is towards the work-life balance. But with the time, since we don't know how long it's going to be, but people are actually working on it to make it better. But yes, that's something which started with a difficult time, but I think it's slowly and smoothing actually getting better day by day.
Yeah, I think for me also, I've been working for a very long time, and we are so much used to going to the office. Like every morning, I get up. The first thing I will try to do is like, come on, dress up, get my favorite shirt to be worn, a special tie, or how I'm gonna, and then I start my work journey. So a lot of things have changed in last 2 months. And how is your experience, by the way, with with regards to this?
It's actually true. You had a routine to follow. Now the routine is just get up on the bed, and then so it was the initial time of it. Later on, everyone, I think I especially realized that it's actually not good. You need to be really active enough to be, it should not feel that you're at home. You should need to be a little more formal. So obviously, initially it was really tough, especially with the team. Obviously, so this the synchronization is really less. All you have to do is on the Teams call, Skype call. So it's difficult. But what we could see is the motivation was actually going down. What we did for that is we decided to do a Friday call where the team gets on a call, and then we try to be real, not discuss about their. Hi Pankaj, I'm not sure where things we just got stopped and then it just got hanged.
So actually, as we were talking about work from home, and
yeah.
so this is the something what we see that this is a new thing what I have faced sometimes. The electricity is gone, sometimes the internet goes off, and we are getting used to it.
Yes, actually true.
So my next question to you was that how is advertising industry shaping during the COVID-19?
Okay, so trust me. So I think that with this COVID situation, so what we got to realize is actually got impacted too badly. The whole advertising and as an industry, not specifically digital, but if you look at the whole ecosystem as in the media industry, was actually shocked up. If, for example, if I say about the ad shoots, it actually got paused. So there was so much of the ad shoots which was actually planned got paused. Plus, if you see from the perspective of there's a lot of trends, there's a lot of changes that is happening with respect to people are getting digital savvy more and more. for example, if I just give you an example of my father, for example, he's very
Mm-hmm.
reluctant of using apps and transactions online. But suddenly, just because of the situation, he's forcefully, he has to use it. And where, if you get to realize, even if the pandemic gets over, maybe like, he might get, adjusted with it, and he'll start doing it. So actually, we see that the numbers at the tier two towns is going up and up day by day. So that's a lot of things happening. Yes, we're moving. The first half is really little bad, but we expect that Diwali is going to be really good for India specifically. We are actually adapting to the situations, and we're getting adjusting to it.
Oh, since you mentioned about your father, I will also like to mention that, my dad, he's like now 62. I'm sure my dad is not gonna kill me for, revealing his actual age, but he has also started using, many of the apps. Like, he was always there on Facebook. But apart from that, there are a lot of online game apps which he has been using and, trying to play online games, or, playing with my daughter. So what we have seen till now is at least there is a spike in the internet audiences, and India has already surpassed US in terms of active internet users. So I think this is a good trend, and thanks to the internet connectivity, which is available on various towns, I think it will help advertising industry to be more innovative and will show us the way forward.
Totally, yes. I think
Um,
Pankaj, that's a fact,
hmm,
and that's actually true. There's a lot of changes which with the time which is happening. The pandemic,
hmm.
the situation has actually, even this is going to bring a better, result to it on the later half of the year. Certainly, yes. So yes, some things have been really bad, but I'm sure the whole industry and everyone is together enough to actually figure out a solution out of it.
So since we talk about this shift, like, of our parents doing this shift, what are the major shift or trends you see in the upcoming months because of the situation like this especially in the advertising industry?
Okay, so if I talk about in the pointers part of it, so certainly the first thing is the better environment. People are at home. It's actually cleaning the pollutions in the environment. That's something which is beyond the advertising as a sector. But if I talk about specifically on the advertising, so one thing is very clear. So work from home, which was not looked as a positive thing, which will start to be people. The companies would start to look as a positive part, and it's going to be benefit for both employer and employer. One thing that just mentioned about people getting digital savvy, yeah, it is indeed, it's going to happen, which will make the internet penetrations go high and high. uh, uh, Another one is like the video channel is going up, the percentage is the retention is going up, the channel is going up. So you will see the advertiser might also start spending more and more, which we already started to do it, but in the coming time of it, the video advertising will start to happen furthermore. uh, the other thing that we realize with this is the advertiser also looking for a long term planning rather than just looking for a short term
Hmm.
campaigns. But how do we strategize for a longer aspects, like maybe we started today, but we get the results in the end of the year. So that's couple of someone where obviously we can also add technology. We're uplifting on the technology part also. So quite a couple of things that is happening with within this situation, and we expect a better tomorrow.
So, especially when we talk about, say, you talk about video, it is anticipated that video is going to grow in India and the consumption is increasing at a very faster pace. So, do you see that video is also, taken a larger share of investments in the upcoming months with regards to advertising?
Yes, indeed. So, indeed, that's also a fact of it. So, definitely, video is taking a good chunk of money out of the advertising budget. But if I try to, so the topic that we have it, which is contextual advertising. So, even we on video as a channels, we're trying to be more contextually correct, more relevant, and we be on the right time at the present. So, it's a mix of even any channel that we use it. Now we're trying to move towards more contextually. Now we're trying to move towards more contextually can we actually write on that. So yes, there is an increase on the spends that we expect to happen.
Sure, definitely. Just coming back to the people for the audiences who have joined us just now, if you have any questions, request you to please put all the questions in the chat box, and we will be taking these questions towards the end of this session. And so, getting back to our topic, is contextual advertising making a comeback? As we say that contextual advertising refers to online marketing that provide targeted advertising based upon the user information, like such as search terms they are using, what kind of content they are consuming, and what kind of web browsing activity they have done over the past few weeks or months if they have not cleared the cookie. So the goal here is to present ads to the customers representing products and services that are already interested in. So the question is like, do you think is contextual advertising making a comeback now? Yeah,
It's
Avinash,
just that
please go ahead.
there's a
Hmm.
spike that you CCPA, or a lot of factor of the reasons that has actually respect to PI as a data. So yes,
Hmm.
certainly a lot of factors has actually made it possible for a comeback to happen in a more aggressive fashion. Let's if I pointed out, for example, brand safety blocking. Yes, that has also been one of the reasons. The brands are actually pushing towards from a perspective. You think about, for example, if I don't show a relevant ads to people, so they might actually start using to ad blocking. But if you're contextually correct, that could actually lead also into a better contextual advertising. So that's why ML machine learning, if you see compared to today's time, it's actually much to go a little more higher than what we are in the current state.
Hmm. Definitely, as we are talking about, say, machine learning and a lot of other factors which gives a lot of information. I'm sure the contextual advertising has changed over the years. And so, can you just put more light on that? How you have seen that contextual advertising changing over the years, and is the communication change over time?
Yes, Pankaj. So certainly it has. The one that I spoke about, the technology part of it, and the how things are improving day by day. So the
Mm-hmm.
relevancy has got better. The one that I spoke about, the AI and the ML. So AI is also definitely a really better half on the part of the kind of keywords that we get into it. Today we are able to do image processing also. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's a little more improved, and that's what I wanted to speak. For example, if I talk about yesterday, like 5 years back, when we used to plan, we used to think of, okay, so we're doing behavior targeting, we're doing geo targeting, let's do a contextual targeting also as a part of it. Today it's a little different. With the commencement
Mm-hmm.
of the PI threat on the advertiser and the agencies, and in fact across the ecosystem, contextual is becoming the important or the integral part of the plan. So yes, the comeback is going to be really spiking up, and we expect with the technology and with the business thoughts and the strategy that we're trying to align with, will actually become better.
So, somewhere when we talk about, say, contextual advertising, there was in time, if I go, say, 6 years, 7 years back, we used to do a lot of display advertising, and that is where the banner blindness started. And the the term contextual advertising was there, but somewhere marketers started using it quite often. What's your take on the same?
Yes, I think I will also agree on that part of it. So that's actually the change which is potentially going up and up. And if I talk about, for example, the globalization with respect to so we little India is, for example, a little behind, but the growth that you see is actually going up and up, and the understanding is also going up. So we expect that things to actually improve furthermore.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think that more and more advertisers will be using contextual post GDPR and cookie dying?
Certainly, yes, because that's the important. That's the most important because there is a strict thing that if you get into use of the data where contextual is completely not completely based on the keywords and the things and the real time that the user is reading about. It's not about the stored data where the way behavior targeting, the other targeting that works. So yes, even if with respect to GDPR, if you talk about the cookieless environment, where contextual targeting still works perfectly and more efficiently as compared to the other targeting. So we expect that also, that going forward, that yes, contextual becoming the more key functionality to the part of the ecosystem.
Communication during this time, do you see that for many advertisers, the communication has possibly changed. The marketers are reluctant uh, for reaching out to audiences as they are not aware, or they are not confident that how a consumer will react to those communications. Would you like to share some examples with us?
Yes, Pankaj. So, communication is like, it's in hand to hand with respect to any strategy that you do. So that's really important.
Mhm.
You might reach to a right audience, but if your communication is not right, it will really not work. For example, if I'm trying to, show something on the decision maker's perspective and as an advertising ads that I'm showing, but I'm showing it to a, junior level, obviously he might, the communication, the create, everything is all perfect. But if the communication is not right and it's not relevant to the person that you're showing, it doesn't really work. So obviously that's really important when we are strategizing, when we are thinking of how beautiful or how important the plan that we make. Importantly, we start to think of the creative and the communication, how smartly it should actually reach out to the audience.
Mhm. Yeah. So, if audience has any questions, we shall be taking the questions in the next couple of minutes. Uh, so, Avinash, how's the situation in Delhi right now? We see that numbers are increasing. Still, India is moving towards unlock one, but it is not resulting into a better way. How's the situation in Delhi?
So it's actually same across India. I would say even in Delhi, it's really, people are really scared about they're not stepping out of it, which is a good thing. We have to be our prime minister is clearly saying that stay home, stay safe. So that's something that obviously people are all following up here. There, we expect the situations to get improved. So at some places it gets better, some places it gets worse. So the better way to do it, just stay at home and just wait for the right time to come.
Yeah, yeah. So we have got the first question online. Uh, is that when we talk about contextual advertising, uh, how important is the communication?
Okay. So yes, so obviously that's what we said. So the relevancy is very contextual. Why did contextual advertising actually getting a rise to it? It's about it is always good to be relevant than to be personal. Now if I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
relevant to that user, relevancy is not just about reaching to right audience people, but if I'm reaching it to the user, what is my communication is, what am I talking about, how am I getting, it doesn't have to be personal, but I have to be relevant. That's what the point is about the contextual advertising. So certainly yes, I think it should primarily be important for both agency, advertisers, vendors. Everyone has to actually think together that how communication can be really play the important role to it. So yes, certainly yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's something which has to be thought first, and it has to go hand in hand with the targeting that you do.
Yeah. So we have also got another question. Like in being an advertiser, all the Indian portals, whether you go to news sites or you go to financial sites, all are full of contextual ads, and getting visibility among these is tough now. So, as a marketer, as in working in an agency, what kind of suggestions you will give to an advertiser apart from appealing graphics and titles? What next can be done when it comes to contextual advertising to increase the viewability and the visibility?
That's an interesting question. So that's something that obviously at times we also face that people are actually jumping into the contextual targeting concepts, and how do we fight those bids and we be there to place of it. So the first and the foremost thing is today we are into the dynamic world where the bids is the most important part of it. You need to first decide on what the right
Mm,
value is for the ads to appear on which place that you're looking for. For example, you want your ad to appear on the first slot, but what you're bidding is something which is relevant to the last spot of it. That will not work. You really need to
mm,
exercise the bids that you're doing on. The second important part of it, you don't have to worry about. If you just think twice about what is the communication you've decided, what is the title that you've decided, what is the creative you've decided. It is now up to the. So when I talk about AI, yeah, AI plays the important role out here. So it's like the Google search engine. How does your organic search keeps coming up? Why? Because the relevancy is high. People are actually organically clicking into it. So with the behavior of the audience, how it is adapting to the environment, and how users' receptivity towards it is something which is an important thing. That's something that you need to also keep in mind. You have to be little stay with it. For example, a lot of time what we see is when we're doing a contextual or any kind of an ad slot, it runs for 10 days and then you pause it, and then another 20 days or maybe a month. If you really want the success rate to be higher, you need to stay there. You need to be patient enough to wait, and it will definitely and surely it will improve with the time. So a couple of more points that you can actually think about it when you do it. It's just that you have to be very realistic and have to be, keep optimizing and keep looking, how's the trend happening, even for the respect of targeting that you're doing it. Are you, your audience might be this one, but you might not be really sure about the kind of targeting. So what you have to do is you have to, every week you have to look at the reports, if male, if female, what is the age graphics that is happening. Basis that if you keep
Mm-hmm.
optimizing, I'm sure you're going to reach at the right place.
Precisely. Yeah. Also, I think more importantly, it's also about the personalization. So when we talk about, say, contextually relevant, but being an individual, I might be a person falling in the same age group, but my interests are different. So the personalization plays a very crucial role in contextual advertising, and which gives you more visibility and better engagement if it is personalized for me. The communication is personalized. So, what do you think about this?
Certainly, yes, Pankaj. I think you pointed out the right point. So personalization is something obviously which is very important, but with contextual, so a lot of things. That's why the technology coming into places, they're pointing out a lot of pointers out there. It's not just about
Mhm.
targeting. It's about a lot of
Correct.
things, which is the user.
Correct.
So certainly, yes, personalization is actually an important point out there. Thanks for bringing that.
Yeah. We also got sort of a question from the audiences. Can you give us some examples of contextual advertising? So, is native a contextual advertising? Is search a contextual advertising? So, your thoughts, please.
Okay, so yeah, so see, let's not talk about contextual as an advertising. It's actually a it's a technology, it's a concept
Correct.
where it's more near to technology. You can actually do, for example, when I spoke about the video advertising, you can actually make video channel as contextual. So for example, the search or the native, and especially with respect to native and contextual, it is the most interesting one. As a if you talk about why, because you see the native ads, it's something, it's every ad, display ad that you see has become a blind spot for you. But if you plan, for example, a native ad with a contextual targeting, it's the perfect blend that you can actually think of. So yes, it is also called as contextual advertising, but I would still say when you think on contextual part, think from a technology, and then blend the targeting or the concepts or the ad unit that you're looking for.
Yeah. So I think it's when we talk about contextual advertising, as Avinash rightly pointed out, it's more often technology which is used. So we can't just put it like whether native or search is contextual advertising, and that's very well point. Apart from this, Avinash, would you like to share with us some more case studies into recent examples of e-commerce or B2B clients you have dealt with, and some strategizing done for these clients?
Okay, so so if I talk about, for example, I will just talk about one as an e-com and the other as a consumer side. For example,
Hmm.
we did a almost it's all last year on the stage of Diwali, and so we did a campaign for Havels as in all categories, not any specific categories. So what we decided, we had a good amount of budget. So how did we start strategize about it? Why? Because today, if you realize, Vernac is going up and up. So if I stand here in Delhi and I do just book a Times of India and expect even the south or east should come up, it doesn't really work out. So what we thought of it, let's pick up the best site of every state that you have it. For example, I would go to ABP for Bengal, I would go to so you keep changing for it. Then we strategize of it, that what is the communication. Then we made vernacular creative specifically for that. Why? Because if you know, it's like, especially on the south part of it, people are really close to their language. That was one strategy. And what we realized is, if we go more precise with respect to different websites on their specialized states, it works better. we were able to actually make better numbers out there, not just about the reach, but even if I think from a CTR, which was double the numbers. So generally in display today, we get around zero point 0.3, zero point 0.4, which we call it as good, but suddenly we made 0.7, 0.8% out of it. And the kind of communication that we tracked with, so we stitched all the festivals which were there in India. It was not just about Diwali, but it was about Pongal, then Durga Puja. Everything was very stitched, and it was stretched to even December, where Christmas also followed into it. That's one of the interesting campaign
Mm-hmm.
that we thought of it. When you have budget, when you have time, I think that's the wonderful way of it. That how do you stitch all of these strategy and campaigns and make sure that then you're doing retargeting also. If somebody was interested on fan, maybe you can try to showcase your other product, which is the other products that you have, maybe like a iron or a mixture or anything that you can actually showcase. So that's another interesting out there. On the e-commerce is actually playing a really important role out here. So it is going up today. People does make Google search, but they have started to go on Amazon or Flipkart and then they search about the products, where they do reviews and research about it. So certainly the numbers are going up there. So Intel is one of our brand where we thought of how do we actually leverage laptops. So they're the chip provider, but we do a lot of laptop selling for the third parties and the OEMs. So one is just about doing advertising on platform. One is about how do we think. So one way, what we decided is we divided the budget between on domain and off domain. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so we created a brand store page on Amazon itself, and we made sure that all the audience which comes on the store page, I'm going to keep them with me. Why? Because this is my potential audience, which I can actually reuse in the next campaign that we can provide. So that's actually it's about how do you combine all of these campaigns and strategies and thought of it. Even the numbers. So we talk on the retail platform when it comes. It is more with respect to sales, which is we call as ACOS. So on the gaming specifically as a category, the ACOS suddenly comes around to be three. It's 7-8%, which actually came down to 3 and 4%. That's the kind of experimentation that you keep doing, and it makes it better for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very interesting to know this, and I think this is a best way to reach out to the audiences and contextually targeting the users. Uh, Another interesting question which came to me right now is like, apart from the location, what are the other dynamics content can be added with the ads related to visitor demographics? So I think if I got the question right, apart from the location or apart from the content, what are the other demography you can add to the communication?
Okay, so you see, demographically, obviously that's important. That enough. For example, that's what I said when I talked about relevancy part of it. Whom are you actually showing? For example, I being a male, if I'm getting a lot of email ads, will also not work. If I talk about age, that is also important. So if I try to be really direct enough and try to be catching those users, but you have to be very sharp with the technology that you're using on.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because if I'm showing a male oriented ads to a female, your whole communication goes for a toss. So on a safer side of it, we don't try to be really personalized that with respect. Why? Because even a one wrong ad can actually dent your brand. uh,
Hmm.
that's actually real scary. So this is something that we try when we do account based marketing, so where we know that which is the account, which is the person that I'm targeting on. So email marketing can be a better way to do it rather than contextual. So contextual targeting has definitely gone to that level of stage of AI and all that, but still hasn't reached to that level that I would think of making too much of personalized ad for my users. Is something my suggestion.
Hmm. Yeah. And one question which came is like, this kind of technology works for all set of categories, or there are any specific categories wherein contextual advertising should be used?
Okay, so this is something I would say it works for all. So since it's a technology, it is something that how smartly that you can actually blend it with your brief that you're looking for and the kind of audience. So let's take an example of any B2C category. Somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
reading about a laptop on any of the website. If I showcase my any OEM category ad to the person, it definitely goes. Now, if I go to a B2B category, for example, somebody is reading a New York Times and reading about something which is which is business oriented, I can actually look for my B2B advertiser to actually target out there. So it is not something specific. I think we can use the contextual targeting across any of the category or any of the brand that we look forward for.
Correct, correct. And actually, these days, it is very important to be relevant to the audiences. The moment we try to show any irrelevant ad, or if it is not fitting in the scheme of things, the user is gonna go off. Same goes with the publishers. Like we see that most of the publishers are today seeing a problem of bounce rate coming in, the low time spent on the website because of the relevancy. So not only in advertising as well as on the publisher side of things also, I think it is very important to have a good strategies in place to retain customers and be relevant to them. Avinash, your thoughts on it?
Yes, Pankaj. So I think that's true. So that's a fact of it that you think from a publisher side also. What you generally see is if you don't target the relevant audience, what happens is the bounce rate starts to go up. The basically the score of your website also gets it gets damaged. So it's certainly very important that it's not just about advertiser, or it's about every bodies which is involved in this ecosystem. Uh, the relevancy goes higher. The kind of performance that you expect will be higher than what you have been actually thought of. So certainly, yes, I think we should actually stick up around a lot of pointers with respect to personalization and relevancy. Relevancy should be the key criteria for anyone who's looking to advertise online or offline, and any form of the advertising that you're looking forward.
Hmm. So I think we are getting more and more questions, but we have an time to follow, a strict schedule. So, Avinash, some ending comments from your end regarding contextual advertising and its future, and especially its use after cookieless world and GDPR being implemented. And in fact, India is having its own data protection bill, which is under discussion. So, how you see industry progressing after implementation of data protection bill or GDPR in India?
Okay, so to give my way of thought towards contextual targeting, so the fact of it, the first thought of it when I think of contextual, I know I still it still reminds me of the days when initially contextual targeting came into place. Today it's not the same. So a lot of people still think that contextual is just about targeting the person at the right context or at the relevancy, but it is beyond that. You can actually look contextual targeting as from the angle of performance and from the angle of reach or brand awareness. So it's actually in the sync of both the part of it. So if you think from the data angle of it, yes, the cookieless environment, that is another reason for you to think forward about contextual targeting. Why? Because then you're safe enough. Just because then I spoke about it's not based on the store data, but it's based on the AI technology or the keywords or the people what they're reading about or the image processing, which is completely not related to user process data that the technology is using on. So certainly
Yeah.
yes. On the other part of it, which is about the data, yes, people are getting very much advanced enough to be sure of it. The laws that are coming up, yes, people are definitely like GDPR, for example, it didn't launch in India, but people were so even in India, all the advertisers were so much enthusiastic about that. No, we have to be really safe about it so that we don't touch any personal data out there. So yes.
Yeah, and I it was interesting to know that you have also written a book, which is all information about online advertising, and title of this book was "No Online Advertising." So, what was the thought behind this book, and how did it started?
Okay, so it's actually you actually made me go back to the days when I actually started my industry. So the reason for this book was it was completely about sharing whatever I used to learn. So when I used to go on Google and search about things, I used to find nothing but except of the Google AdWords terminologies and all that. What we realized that the
Hmm.
industry is more bigger than what is there. So I started to write anything that I learned about, whether it's about technology, how does an ad server work, what happens. So I kept on doing it. For a year I started as a blog and then finally realized, no, let's create a website. So it was first as a website, and then what I saw is the response was going up and up. And after 2 4 years, then I realized that so much of requests started to come. I could see a lot of traffic from US or across the world actually, and then a lot of
Hmm.
requests started to come with respect to why don't you write a book. And I realized why not I be the first. I know, so I call it my first as a person. Why? Because there's too much of book which is on marketing but not on advertising specifically. So this book
Hmm.
is something which is if you really want to brush up your digital or you want to get into digital, it starts from the history and ends to programmatic. It's a step by step
Hmm.
approach and written in a very simple words. I haven't tried to be very much fancy by the words or have used a lot of jargons. It is something very easy, simple. You would see a lot of topics which talks about difference between advertiser and publisher. Who does that today? People talk in a different fashion, but I still stay with that because I realize that's the easiest way to understand what advertising is.
Yeah, I think it's very important for all of us so that our basics are clear. I remember my professor telling me that there are only two golden rules for it. Like first is know your basics, and second one is never forget your basics. So I think that's the most important and crucial part of any well-being and any this thing. So, in a nutshell, like today we have covered contextual advertising and we have taken most of the questions because of the shortage of time. We could not take all of them. So we'd like to thank everyone who was part of this thing, call and the stream and the users. We are running a special bonus for MGID viewers, people who have not registered with us and would register in the next 8 days, they will get a bonus of $500 on their first top up. And you shall be getting all the information via email. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Avinash. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.